Yo, what's cracking? This right here, the guys up at My Easy Smokes asked me to build and review this beast, so that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. Out of the box, it comes absolutely amazing. The airflow is nice. I do a hotter build than usual, but that's just all in the wire size. So the build that I'm going to show you today, if you use like a 28 gauge Kanthal wire, you will get a higher resistance coil that won't be as hot and harsh on you. I personally like blowing big clouds. The tank has adjustable airflow. You can do dual coil like what you have here. There's an air hole on each side, or you can do single coil, which is just this piece here. It's all adjustable whenever you put it together. That would be for single flow, or you line up your air holes on each side for your dual coil build, and that is what I'm going to be showing you guys today. So let me pop that together, get it over here, and we will start a build for you. Alright, let's pull apart. The platform, it's not the easiest to build on. I have had harder ones to build with, like the K-Fun for instance, or the Russian 91%. In my opinion, they're not that easy to build with. Now this one here, the only real complicated technique that I've seemed to find out with it is the actual wicking, to be sure that your juice flows up to the coil so you don't get a dry hot burn. Set this stuff aside. What I'm going to be using today is 22 gauge Kanthal wire. I've got a pair of pliers to squeeze the coils with, and I'll show you how that's done towards the end, and obviously some cutters and my screwdriver to wrap the coil around. So first things first, I take about 5 inches of wire, cut that off, set it aside. Take about another 5 inches of wire, clip that, and then we can get that out of here. Now, I've got both pieces of wire, and I'm going to show you how to wrap a dual nano coil on the Kraken. First thing I do is I like to hold the wire flat against the side of the screwdriver. That just ensures that whenever you wrap your coil, you get them nice and tight and close together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 6 wraps. I'm going to get them as tight and close as possible. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, push them in. It's going to be 4. That's going to be 6 reps. And really keeping momentum is what's going to get you, see if I can get that to focus, a nice close coil. So what I'm going to do is take this extra part here. This is actually going to be where your first part of the coil started. And then I'm just going to push that down. Make sure it's nice and tight on there. It's not going to focus for us, but there we go. That's your first coil. Now what I'm going to do is once it's actually on the device, I'm going to heat it and squeeze it together so it's heating evenly. So let's just set that one aside. Let's get the other one going. You want to make sure that whenever you wrap these coils, you go the same way with each one. So we started over the top with the first one, we'll start over the top with this one. and that is going to be our 6 wraps. Just push it together nice and tight, and then we're going to set that aside. Now, for the deck, this is going to be hard to do on film, but it's alright. Make sure your screws are loose. You don't want them extremely loose. And this is where the tricky part comes in. We're going to remove this piece of glass. Be very gentle with it because it is very fragile. I've already got a couple chips in it, but that's because I've been building and building on it, and I finally found the good coil to show you all in this tutorial. With the bottom lead, because we wrapped our coils the same way, they're going to be on the outside no matter how you wrap it. We're going to set it directly over the wicking hole with the wire. Actually, I'm going to use the short lead. With the wire on the inside of the negative post and the coil actually directly over the air hole. Okay, what I like to do is hold that firmly on the base, wrap the positive coil around the center post, and then just let it sit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my small screwdriver, I'm going to put it in between the coil and the air hole and just let it rest. Or not the air hole, the wick hole. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is just take this negative lead, bring it around the negative screw to where it's nice and tight, and then double check, I didn't mean to bump the camera there, double check in between the negative screw and the center post and make sure that this wire on your negative lead is not touching that center post. And what I'm going to do once I have this in place directly over that wicking hole, I'm going to tighten down the screw. Tighten down the negative post. Now you want to make sure it's tight, but you don't want to over torque it. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the screwdriver back in between the coil and the wick hole. Pull this tight on the positive lead. And then I'm going to remove the screwdriver and let it sit. Now that is directly over the wicking hole. That is it. Now same thing goes for the other side. Loosen up our negative terminal. Put our coil right over that air hole. Wick hole, sorry, I don't know why I keep saying air hole. And then with the screwdriver in there, we're going to pull that negative lead around, that negative terminal. And this is why I have the pliers, because sometimes you need to give it just an extra pull just to make sure that that's nice and under there, nice and tight. Then we're going to go around the positive terminal. Move the screwdriver and show you all a little bit better. We're going to go around this positive terminal with the second coil. Make sure it's nice and tight on there. And directly over the wicking hole. I know there's a lot of wire going all over the place, but you can see that those wicking holes are directly underneath these coils. Now we're going to torque down this negative post. Pull it out a little bit tighter. You want to make sure that's completely underneath that screw. You don't want any loose ends. Just like that. Now for the positive terminal, Hold your 2 leads nice and tight. If you see any slack, I don't know if you can see in there, but there was a little bit touching the top of the coil. You just want to make sure that you grab that lead, pull those out nice and tight, torque it down a little bit more. Now the coils did tilt over a little bit. That is totally okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take these extra leads and we're just going to give them an up and down motion. Back and forth, back and forth. Boom. You don't want to pull on these, you just want to wiggle them back and forth until they pop off. Just take your time with them. I'm using a very thick wire. I do recommend for y'all's first build, definitely use a 28 because these coils get very hot and you might not like them at first if you're going from like an Ego kit or just a basic variable voltage to something like this on a mechanical mod. I put my screwdriver back in there now, those are out of the way. Tilt the coil straight up and down, as well as this one here. We'll get that over the air hole. Waking hole, sorry. Wiggle these negative leads off. So that one came out. Just give it a light up and down wiggle and that wire will break loose. Your 28 gauge will definitely break a lot faster, a lot easier. It's a lot easier to work with. This stuff's like working with a paper clip. It doesn't really look as easy as what I'm making it seem with this thick wire. I've been doing this for quite some time now. But there you have a very clean dual coil on your Kraken. We'll push this over a little bit. Make sure we're directly over that hole still. That wire is a little short. I'm not going to break it off. I'm just going to push it in. Take my little screwdriver here. But I want to make sure that we're not touching the bottom of this coil. Just on the base. Now what I do with my flathead screwdriver is I don't want the bottom of this coil touching the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to lightly lift up on that coil. I'll lightly lift up on this coil. And there you have it. Dual micro coils on the Kraken. Tweezers do come in handy. What we're going to do is, see how there's a little bit of gap in here? You don't want that gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm going to pinch this coil not too hard because you don't want them to overlap, but you do want them closely together. Put those in there. Straighten that coil up a little bit more. We are directly over the wicking holes, and that is a beautiful dual coil on the